Hi, friends. Welcome back to Genuinely Curious. We are on day 3 of Podmas, and I'm just so glad you're here. So, I'm going to do an episode every day until Christmas, and I'm excited to talk about all the random things as we catch up on podcast episodes. So, as promised, I said I would talk about the thing that everyone in the world seems to be talking about. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Wicked. Yeah. So Wicked, originally a Broadway play, something that I originally heard in like middle school. Shout out to, I think her name was Miss Whitley. I'll have to confirm with someone else who was there, but she played it in our English class in 8th grade. And I just remember, Defying Gravity, Popular. I just remember that being like the background music in her classroom. So that was my first introduction to Wicked. And I'm not necessarily a Broadway girl. I literally just went to New York for the first time this year, the year of 2024. It was on my list for the year. And I went and saw, well, first off, I didn't know any of the rules about getting tickets before. My trip was last minute. And just seeing a Broadway show was the thing I needed to tick off. Go to New York and see a Broadway show. Because I'm into musicals. Like, your girl liked Hamilton. I'm like one of the few people who are not theater kids who enjoyed Hamilton. And I watched it on like Disney Plus. You know what I mean? Like the 4-hour production on Disney Plus. I don't actually think it's 4 hours, but beautiful. Like, love the idea of theater, the stage. And first of all, Broadway is its like own thing. Mercy. And we'll get to that because I have been kind of down the rabbit hole on YouTube, and just like the Broadway life, the Broadway theater, it's its own like ecosystem. It feels like that if you're not in it, you don't get it, or you're like a theater kid who gets it from the outside. But like, again, own ecosystem. But I went to New York and I saw Chicago, and I didn't realize you had to like, sometimes if you don't get the tickets online, which are more expensive, you can go the day of. And I forgot what it's called. But bottom line, you go there early, like when the theater actually opens, and you stand in line and try to get tickets for cheaper, like whatever they have left over or whatever they're selling. But it's usually cheaper than what you would have found online. Not total. It like that. It may not be that particular day, but anyway, bottom line, it's supposed to be, right? So I did that. I wanted to see The Six, which I still would like to see. That looks really good. I think I stood in line for that. And then I eventually like walked around the corner and went to Chicago because I didn't actually know that story. And that's a big thing for me, like seeing a Broadway show. Like, I don't necessarily want to know the story. Like, I want it to be a new and fresh story. But bottom line, I really enjoyed Wicked. I went to the theater to see it with like my oldest friend at this point, and she had the same memory of watching Wicked, or excuse me, listening to Wicked as I did in that same class in middle school. We both said it like when we were at the theater. We were like, oh yeah, that was my first time too. So anyway, we went to see the movie. It was so great. Shout out to Whitney. We both loved it. The music was like different enough that it made like Ariana and Cynthia made it their own, but it was like familiar enough. You know what I mean? They said that they were thinking about, and I mentioned this in the last episode, John M. Chu, who is fantastic and doesn't get enough credit. He wanted to do possibly a hip hop version of Popular, and that would have been the biggest mistake of his career. And he's had some other mistakes. Okay. He had some blunders on In the Heights, and I'm not sure if there's anything else, but that's one that comes to mind immediately. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Was never like taken out of it. Was never distracted. Was like fully in the world of Wicked. And I'm somebody, I've watched all kinds of behind the scenes of Adina Menzel, Adele Dazeem. If you're unfamiliar with that random cultural moment when John Travolta introduced Adina Menzel at the Oscars. I think she was about to perform Let It Go because she is that same person, right? Who voices Elsa. Like, what a career, you know? Like, you have these 2 landmark acting roles. Actually, in Rent, duh. Like, that was where she stepped out on the scene, was Rent. So she's been in like 3 culturally impactful and like so vastly different roles. And I think that that's pretty cool too. But Adele Dazeem, John Travolta called her that as he introduced her, and it obviously became a headline the next day or the night of, because who does that? Adina Menzel? Adele Dazeem? That's crazy, John Travolta. So anyway, she was fantastic. Them reprising their role was fantastic. Kristen Chenoweth. But everybody's been talking, and I say everybody, pop culture world, theater world, they're talking about whether or not Cynthia and Ariana would be in the same category. Because previously, when this show was up for the Tonys, Kristen Chenoweth, who plays Galinda, and Idina Menzel, who plays Elphaba, they were in the same category for leading actress, because they didn't want to put Galinda in the supporting actress role because it's two women, and that was kind of like the big thing on Broadway at the time, that there were two women leads. So Idina Menzel goes on to win the Tony, and thanks Kristen Chenoweth, and they were all very gracious and all of that. But Kristen Chenoweth did say, like, I hope Galinda does get her just due. But it sounds like they're going to put them in two separate categories for the Oscars. And it sounds like people are saying sweep, sweep, sweep. But, like, I don't trust any award show, so who knows. But reasonably, they should sweep the Oscars. And then Cynthia should be an EGOT. So she has an Emmy, a Grammy, and a Tony already. I think for The Color Purple is only the Tony and the Grammy. And then I think the Emmy is for, could it be Harriet? Harriet's not a movie though. I don't know how Emmys work. Bottom line, she's already a EGT, okay? And she's looking for an O, and this should be the role that she gets it in, because she was fantastic. And they were so great in different ways, right? Like, Cynthia had all these like subtle moments, facial expressions. It's like soft and intriguing looks. I thought, like, I just, her face was doing so much work. The look, I don't even know how to say it. And I think the best actors do have that. Like, I do think a lot of the actors that we gravitate toward are ones with these like micro expressions that we can kind of pick up on. And Cynthia's were fantastic. That scene where she starts crying on the dance floor, pack me up. That was crazy. I literally was like welling up there in the theater. Unbelievable. And I'm like super empathetic. Some call me an empath. Don't you just hate that word? But no, for real. Like, my whole life been super empathetic. So I roll with it. But I was there, just her tear dropping, crazy. And Ariana, in a different direction, I just felt like her comedic timing was fantastic. The tone she set, amazing. Her singing, of course, I mean, both of them, phenomenal singing, crazy. But I felt like she toed the line of, again, making it her own, but it was like enough of the Galinda character. Like, she certainly embodied that character through and through. And I saw her in a different way than I expected to, which John M. Chu, when they were doing the auditions, and of course, like I said, I've been watching a lot of behind the scenes because that is what people like me do after watching a movie, but said like when she came for the audition, she looked like Ariana Grande. And so he asked her to come back with like no makeup and all that. So anyway, I think the dyeing of the hair, the more pale skin has really worked to her advantage for this role. But her performance, just even like the dancing, we've already got viral moments from it. And so I just wonder, are they going to give, actually, I guess if they're both in different categories, it won't matter. But I was going to say that maybe one of them gets it for this first part and the one gets for the second part. Because I can only imagine both parts are equally as good. Now, of course, there'll be a lot of criticism for the second one because of the bar that was set in the first one. But I do think that, you know, they knocked this out of the park. And John M. Chu is like that guy, okay? I just don't know that he gets enough credit. Legit, Step Up to the Streets was one of my favorite movies growing up. Moose, the dance battle scene in the rain. Like, who does that? Who's willing to even the production cost of that? And to follow Step Up, which, again, totally different tone, like many other movies out there where the second one in the franchise strikes a different tone. Think Bad Boys 2, right? Bad Boys 1 is like a big blockbuster movie, right? People go see it in the theater. People talk about it. They rave the headlines. Bad Boys 2 was like so more comedic and like niche comedy. I felt like maybe not made for the same audience, not made for a mass audience, but equally as good. I love it. I actually rank Bad Boys 2 for myself higher. But similarly, this Step Up to the Streets. How did we get on this tangent? That is crazy. But Step Up 1, definitely more cinematic. Step Up to the Streets was like definitely for a more specific group of people, a niche group of people, dancer, artsy kind of people. And that, my friends, is called a tangent. But yeah, so the Wicked, John M. Chu, deserves better. So give him all the awards. The other question I think has been big on the internet is, should Glinda have gone with Elphaba? And I originally wrote, I think yes. But then there was a creator who broke it down knowing the second act. And I will say I have seen Wicked. I forgot to mention that. I saw Wicked here at a theater on the national tour, and it was great. I don't know why. I mean, it's not even that long ago. It feels like maybe 8 years now, but I don't exactly remember the specific plot points in the resolution. So that is a bit concerning, actually, just from a memory standpoint. Like, that's wild, but there are things like, I don't know if I should be avoiding spoilers, because it's like, baby girl, you already saw it. But if I don't remember it, it's like, it still seems like a spoiler. But I have an idea of what happens in the second act. And this creator on TikTok mentioned, all the reasons he thinks that Glinda couldn't have gone with Elphaba. Right. And it wasn't like maybe this like selfish thing that it seems, that she can't run away from her life of privilege and she doesn't want to go with her. It's like the idea of she doesn't have powers yet. So she will either be dragging Elphaba down, or Elphaba will have to take care of her. That, Elphaba could go so much further alone and make what she needs to happen. That she couldn't be a team member necessarily to Elphaba, right? Like that line about working in tandem, like how could she? She has no powers. What could she do with her privilege after being exiled in that way? And so I thought that was interesting. Then the point of, and this is again like not knowing exactly what happens in the second one, but it appears from that opening scene that Glinda rises to this prominence, right? That people look up to her and she's in charge of something. And so maybe that was part of her plan all along, right? That she knew she could have more power and influence and help Elphaba by remaining where she was and playing the system from the inside. I don't know. I hope that's what happened, because honestly, it was like, girl, get on the broom. Why are you not getting on the broom? You said that's your friend. That's your bestie girl. Get on the broom. Why not? And so, again, I thought this creator raised a lot of great points that made her seem a lot less selfish, which is good, because she starts off and she's a dynamic character. She goes from being this like really uptight person, unlikable character, to by the end, you're like, oh, this is a ride or die. This is a great friend. It just turns out she doesn't actually ride with her, right? She doesn't get on the broom. So is she ride or die? I think that's tough. That's tough to say. Elphaba dies, though. I do know that. So I guess not a great slogan for those two, because I'm not sure which part they're actually living. Again, there we go with another beautiful tangent. Again, give Cynthia her flowers. I know the internet has been going wild about like Black people not being on Cynthia's side or a fan of her because of things she said in the past. I don't know exactly what those things are. They said they were anti-Black. I do believe the internet on certain things, right? So I'm sure there's some truth to that. I don't know if she's made any reconciliation about that. She's played, a Harriet role, The Color Purple. Like, she's played a lot of Black roles with the British accent. And so if she was talking crazy about Black people, that's crazy. So I hope that that's not true. But she seems like I'm a good vibes person. And I think for the most part, she seems like she's got good vibes. I know people have an issue with her relationship with Lena Waithe and all of that and how it came to be and whatever. And it's like, honestly, to consume the art right now, I do not care. I do not care. It's like not a moral dilemma for me to watch that. Because, of course, if it were something horrific, wouldn't support, couldn't get down with it. But this is not that. And for either of the leading ladies in this. So I wish them the best. I can't wait for the second part to come out next year. I thought it was fantastic. And I thought that Wicked coming out in theaters is such a beautiful way to bring this story to more people. Same way that Hamilton being on Disney Plus brought Hamilton to more people, right? There are kids who will see that and think, oh, I want to be in the theater based on this, their interaction and their experience with this. And to me, that's really cool. There's pockets of America where kids who have Disney Plus will be able to see theater on stage without having a parent take them to New York or a national tour to see it. Like that accessibility of the theater is fantastic. Same way with like In the Heights, the movie. I just think it opens up the eyes of a lot of people that otherwise would not have seen something like that. But anyway, what did y'all think of Wicked? I haven't heard really any bad reviews from anybody. From theater people, they loved it. I feel like regular people like me who went to see it loved it as well. Set design, phenomenal. Costuming, phenomenal. Was done by a black man. I don't know his name. I've seen a bunch of videos on him though. He was great. The colors are great. People were talking about how the cinematography, like the lighting, it was more pale and people wanted more saturated colors. But people wanted to be like Technicolor and like that was going to look crazy, first of all. Insane. So, but like the little minute details, Cynthia or Elphaba's freckles, you know, like just things like that. The set design of Galinda's room, right? Like when she comes back after singing Popular and she stands on that desk that is her vanity tipped over, like she's on a stage and there are lights around her. It gave Sharpay Evans the whole time. And of course she predates Sharpay Evans, but that's what that set design gave. The clothes were so luxurious. Again, give them all the awards. They deserve all the awards. And I can't wait for the next one. But let me know what you thought of it. Let me know if I was off base, if you hated it. Tell me how many times you cried. Did you cry twice like me? Or 5 times? I've heard people cry pretty much most of the movie. I think people who have a deeper connection maybe to the play, or excuse me, to the musical, where like this music has been so impactful for their lives. But I look forward to learning more about what the story is about, because apparently I don't remember what it was. So great job, John M. Chu. Great job to Steven, who was one of the writers. I think it's Steven Schwartz, one of the writers for the music. Great job to Cynthia and Ariana and all their crying interviews that I thought, once you see it, warranted. Absolutely warranted. Like they needed that emotionality to get these roles and to perform well in them. So if they want to cry, let them cry. But I will say, I feel like Adina is not an emotional gal. When she was in the interview for Entertainment Weekly with them, she was probably looking at all 3 of them, including Kristen Chenoweth, like, girl, you're doing so much. The drama of these girls. Anyway, okay, that was Podmas Day 3. Make sure you come back. I'll be talking more sports in the next one. All right, bye.